is my whale shark plushie. Key back. I also just have my great white shark plushie. These are applicable to this video. A great white shark and a whale shark, to a degree, are in the movie I am going to be reviewing today, which is Moana 2. First thing I'm going to get out of the way, I am actually recording this during a blizzard here in Nebraska. We had like 2 really nice days, and now we're having a blizzard. I don't think you'll be able to hear it outside, but we're having a blizzard. And we actually, like less than 30 minutes ago, our power had been out for like 2 hours, and now it was back on. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get this recorded now while I have the ability to do so. And won't go up until a bit later, but I wanted to get this out of the way since I have now finally seen Moana 2. And I very much enjoyed it. And I'll be talking about it for this review, and then we'll see what happens after that. Don't remember what the next... I know there's the live action Snow White that's supposed to be coming out, and to be honest, I'm not that super interested in it. I will probably eventually see it, but it's not one that I'm like, oh, I have to go see that in theaters. I'm like, I can wait till it goes to Disney Plus. I wanted to see Moana 2 in theaters, but unfortunately, stuff just didn't line up where that would have worked for my dad and I to go see it. So I finally saw it streaming on Disney Plus, and now I'm going to do the review. I'm hoping I can get through this and we don't lose power. If so, part of this video might be me talking just to like my ring light and hoping that the computer doesn't die. So we'll see how that goes. So starting off with Moana 2. So the movie itself takes place about 3 years after the original movie. It's been like, what, 8 years since the movie came out. 2016 I think was when the first Moana movie came out. Now this came out in 2024. So within story, it is about 3 years later, and Moana has spent this time frame helping her village, the island of Motunui, helping them with, you know, building back up their seafaring abilities and everything else like that. And she's out being a wayfinder and all of that stuff. And, you know, exploring and traveling and all of this other stuff. And she keeps going to all of these different islands because her intention is to try to find other people like them, other people who used to voyage the sea and who, you know, share some history with them. And that is Moana's intention. So she keeps traveling to all of these different islands and looking for signs of, you know, any villages or anything like that. And she brings Hey Hey and Pua with her. So she's bringing the chicken and the pig with her. Via shenanigans, Hey Hey actually ends up finding this broken piece of pottery, and Moana looks at it and she realizes that, oh, this is not from our village. This is from somewhere else. She doesn't recognize the markings on it. She recognizes that they're like talking about an island and that they're talking about like a certain constellation, but she doesn't recognize the constellation. So her, Hey Hey, and Pua are all making their way back to Motunui. And this is where we get... There you go, the power just went out again. Let's... Can I make this so I'm not washed out? Oh boy. Ooh. And blue. Yep, there goes the power again. Not surprised. Was hoping it would not, you know, go out, but not surprised. I'm going to open the window and see if that helps balance out some of the light in here. That actually helped. It's actually slightly brighter in here now. It's a bit better in here, better lighting. So we'll do this for now. Maybe the electricity will come back on while I'm recording. I don't know. But I really want to get this done before I still have a lot of my first thoughts of the movie fairly good in my head. I'm not going to mess with the light source anymore. I don't want to make it any weirder or mess it up. So, or make it spend more power than need be, because now I'm sticking with battery life on this thing. Yeah, lots of places around Lincoln are losing power, so I wasn't surprised that this happened. So Moana makes her way back to Motunui, and we get kind of there was the first song at the beginning of the movie that is kind of the Tule Tagala. Sorry, I don't speak Polynesian. I'm sorry, and I'm horrible with the translations. But that's kind of like the opening theme that was in the first Moana movie, and they carry it throughout this one as well, which I like. They reuse some of the themes in this movie that they used in the first movie, which I do really like that they do that. But Moana makes her way back to Motunui, and we get the opening song, "We're Back," which is referring to the whole fact that like her people are back to being able to sail the ocean again, to being able to sail out past the reef. And we get lots of references to this. We get introduced to a lot of the other villagers and stuff like that through this. We see how the village has changed. Her father has much more embraced, Chief Tui has much more embraced sailing and everything like that. There's like a little Moana fan club of like girls that all dress like Moana. There's lots of guys that are trying to impress Moana because she's the chief's daughter, and she very much has proved herself. They talk about like, how she's brought wayfinding back to their people and everything. I can see the blizzard going outside. And what ends up happening is, so we get like the We're Back song where everybody's like very happy, and we're kind of learning about like things that have progressed in the past 3 years. And we kind of meet some characters throughout this that'll get called back to later because they're going to be more important in this movie. And then of course one of the newer characters that we meet, Samea, is Moana's little sister, and she is just like so happy when Moana is back, and we have the little sis, big sis moment with like them running at each other and being reunited and everything. And Moana shows the broken piece of pottery to her father and to Samea, and is explaining to her, and like she even takes Samea back to the cave where all of the boats that they had that had originally belonged to their people had been in the cave, that like held the secrets of their village and everything, the secrets of their past. And she takes Samea there and is like showing her around the cave, which is of course the reference to like, in the first movie when Moana is like finding out the real history of their people, that they were voyagers, that they were wayfinders. And what ends up happening is, she's, reminding Samea of this legacy, and she's, kind of the whole thought of like, well, she keeps traveling to all these different islands so that way she can try and find their people, and she still has like the ocean is still her friend and everything. So we have like those connections that are like carried on from the first movie. And what ends up happening is via like her father decides that we are going to give you this new title, Toa Te Vasa. And this is going to be like, this is, for like this legendary wayfinder is what this is naming you after, this title that has been passed down through the ancestors. And now Moana has been able to take this, she's become a wayfinder again, and she's, starting to carry their village through this, carry their island back into this life. And so their intention is to give her this, this honor, this title at like this party that night. We cut away from that and we cut to where we find Maui, who has made his way to somewhere. We haven't quite figured out where this is yet, but he's made his way to somewhere that is clearly magical, and he is trying to convince this demigoddess who just keeps messing with him, which is just funny. She has bats for pets. I'll get more into her later, but she just keeps messing with Maui and like teasing him and everything else like that. She's like teasing him about Moana, and he's like, nah, she's just annoying. Like and you can tell, like, we know that by the end of the first movie, Maui and Moana are very very good friends, like best friends. And Maui's intention is to try to keep the other gods and the demigods away from Moana because he's worried that they're going to try to hurt her, which is fair. So what ends up happening is, he ends up kind of getting trapped by the demigoddess, and we'll catch back up with him in a little bit. So back on Motunui, they're going to have this big ceremony that night where we, it's like, it's a very nice way that they're showing this. They're showing like some like traditional dancing and stuff like that, and there's like traditional singing going on in the background, which I like. And like they've expanded some of their island and stuff like that in regards to like expanding some of their architecture and things like that to improve on things. And they bring Moana in, and they're getting ready to do the ceremony. And what happens is that right in the middle of the ceremony, there is this rogue purple thunderbolt, lightning bolt that just comes out of the sky, crashes through the top of the like the town hall type area that they have, the longhouse type thing that they built, crashes through the top of that and barely misses Moana. And it just, barely misses her, and she kind of passes out, and she has this vision where she is communicating with Toa-te-Vasa, with the previous one who had been, who had gone out like 1,000 years ago or sometime. We don't get an exact time frame if this is supposed to be during the 1,000 years when like Te Fiti was when Te Ka and Te Fiti were like raging and where they couldn't travel and everything else like that because the ocean was so dangerous and everything. We don't know if it's like during that same time frame or if it's prior to that time frame. We're not sure exactly. We don't get an exact answer for that. But Moana gets these visions of Toa-te-Vasa, and then she kind of sees like his crew crashing and everything like that as they're sailing toward this giant storm. And then she like looks, and she's like back at her village, and she sees that it is abandoned and overgrown. And Toa-te-Vasa, who appears in the form, whose like spirit form is a giant whale shark, like how her grandmother's is a giant stingray, or is a giant manta ray, his is a giant whale shark. As like his spirit animal, reincarnation type of thing, what his soul took the shape of. And shows up and explains to Moana that, okay, so this will be your people's future if you are unable to find Motufatu, which is this island that is like this convergence of all of these crossroads for all of these different like sailing routes and stuff like that was like this crossroads place for like all of their people, for all of these different versions, different types of Polynesian culture and stuff like that. Because like in our own actual history in Polynesian culture, again, I'm not an expert on this by any means. I did the whole video where I talked about Moana being like possible ancestor of like Nani and Lilo and like Lilo and Stitch and everything. By the way, I'm really interested to see the live action Lilo and Stitch, so we'll see how that goes. I'm excited about that, so we'll see what happens there. But like Polynesian culture, there's like so many of these different islands that like each one of them, even if they're kind of close to each other, have like bits of differences in their culture. Yes, they share like origin points from like how people traveled to all of those islands and everything, but they all come up with like some different tools, different ways of building their boats, different symbols for like their own gods and goddesses and their own stories and things like that. And that was something that like when they were making the original Moana movie, and probably when they were making this one, that they did lots and lots of interviews and research to try to figure out how to set up these different cultures. And what ends up happening is, so Moana is told by Toa-te-Vasa that if she does not succeed in finding Motufatu, then her village, her people will die because they will be unconnected from the rest of the world. They will not be able to reunite with all of the rest of their people, with all the rest of the people of the sea. So what ends up happening is, Moana wakes up from her vision. She's fine. Everybody was like freaking out because she almost got electrocuted, which is fair, but she's fine. And then we meet Moni, who is the kind of the village storyteller, and he's also this Maui fanboy and everything. And they go to him, and he's able to find them information about this. And he explains that, okay, so I found the information you need. He had been looking into like the star sign that was on the broken piece of pottery that Moana found, and he finds it, and he finds this like one of the things in Polynesian culture is that they tell stories with like the scrolls and the tapestries and stuff like that. So he's like showing her and her parents these tapestries, and like, so here's the story. So it was this island, Motufutu was this crossroads for all of their people, and it was sunk by this powerful storm god named Nalo, because his intention was to try to cut off humanity from each other, because he felt that if he was able to do that, that would make him even more powerful. And so there's other people out there, but they can't connect because like all of these different, they're kind of like set up in like you can sail so far, but you're not going to find anyone else, as a way of like isolating them and cutting them off. So it like kind of makes it so the sea routes don't connect the way that they're supposed to. It's really windy outside. Hi. You're a good girl. You're a good girl. He's a puppy. You're a good girl. Do you not want to stay by Grandma? I gotta keep going about Moana. I gotta keep talking about her. Her, pet me while you talk. Okay. I guess I can do that. I can pet you while I talk. How does that sound? Works for me. So what ends up happening is, Monet explains this story to her and her parents, and there's this whole big discussion of like, how can we find this island to begin with? And Moana says in the vision she was told by Tuatevasa that, told by Tuatevasa that she will follow this fire in the sky. And lo and behold, a comet shows up. And they're like, okay, well, I guess I get to follow that thing. So there's this whole setup here where she's like, okay, how can I do this? I need to, is this something I need to do? Because there's a possibility she won't return. But it's either she goes and tries this, and if she succeeds, then her people will thrive again because they will be able to be reunited with all the other tribes and villages and islands and stuff like that. And if she fails, then they're gonna die anyway. And if she doesn't even try to go, then they're all gonna die. Not like die like right then and there, but they're going to like slowly die out over time. To be fair, they've been trapped on an island, isolated on an island for 1,000 years. That's with like limited genetic pool, so there's like questions there, and we don't know the exact population of the island. And Brenda is very interested in the snow outside. And what ends up happening is, so she's like, okay. And so we have this kind of shown in this song that Moana sings. That's her kind of I Want song that is called Beyond in this movie. The other one was called How Far I'll Go from the first movie. Now she has Beyond. And it's her deciding, like, weighing the options, weighing the price of going and trying to find Motufutu to save her family and her people and her island from Nalo's curse. Weighed. And for her, mostly it's like weighed against leaving her parents again and leaving her sister. It's like going on like trips to go to these other islands takes like 3 days. Trying this could take a long time, and there's a very good chance she will not return. And Samea is very unhappy about this, and Moana is just like, she's very concerned about this. And this is where we have it that her grandmother returns in her, manta ray form, shows up, and then, they do the dancing on the beach by the waves again and everything, as her grandmother is giving her this advice of, you are, last time when you left, you didn't realize how much you could lose. Now you do. You're older, you've grown, you've seen what is ahead of you, what is possible that you will have to face on this journey. This is another angry god you're going to have to face. And now it's like, okay, now what are you going to try to do? And and Moana makes her decision, and she's like, I will go, and I will try to, I will succeed at this, I will do this. And she like tells her plan to the village and everything. And so they have that moment there where she's like explaining to the village, and now she's got to try to recruit people for her crew, because her mom's like, okay, you went off on your own the last time, this time you need to take a crew with you. And Moana's like, I'll be fine. And her mom's just like staring at her like, no, you are going to take a crew with her. And so Moana's like, fine. So she takes the storyteller, who is the big Maui fanboy, Moni, with her. She also takes Loto, who is their craft woman, and shipwright, who is like kind of very much probably coming to her own in the last 3 years, with like building all of these different types of ships and everything else like that. And they also take along the grumpy farming expert, this elder, Kele, who is just like, doesn't want to leave the island. He doesn't want to go into the water. He just wants to go back to the island the entire time. He does not want to be here. And along with Pua and Heihei are all like set to be on their crew. And Loto makes her this like much bigger boat, so it will be able to house all of them and all of their supplies for the trip. Brenda is very interested in the snow outside right now. Are you interested in the snow? Are you watching the snow? Yeah, I know. Good girl. And so they set out on their own. They set out on their way, and there's like the song "Find Your Way," which is I think it's a song in Polynesian, and I think it's very similar to the "We Know the Way" song, I believe, from the first movie, as they like send her and her crew off. We cut away from this again, and we find Maui, and he is currently trapped, surrounded by a ring, like this chain of like shark teeth. I don't know if they're supposed to be megalodon teeth, but like shark teeth, trapping him and his hook, because he can't transform without his hook. Trapping him and his hook, and they seem to be in the digestive tract or the stomach area of some type of creature. We'll get to what the giant creature is later. And he tries to give this like rousing speech, and he's just kind of surrounded by all of these weird little amphibian things. I don't know what they're called. He's like surrounded by them and trying to rouse them to try to assist him, and that doesn't go well. He just gets covered in a bunch of digestive junk and gunk and everything like that, which is just not fun for him. And he's taunted by the goddess again about like bring your little friend here and everything else like that. She's like taunting him. So then we're gonna cut back to Moana's crew, and they've set out for Motufutu, and so do you want out of the room now, or do you want back up on the bed? He's like, no, I want you to pet me. Okay, I can pet you, that's fine. So what ends up happening is, Moana and her crew are out, and they are very this like ragtag bunch of people, because like Moana's the one who is the wayfinder. She has, or wayfarer. She has wayfinder, not wayfarer, wayfinder, who has been, traveling for about 3 years now, has gotten, got lessons firsthand from Maui and everything. And she's trying to get the other three to all work together and to stop focusing. Like, Monet keeps trying to, Mooney keeps trying to, draw more art and everything else like that when he should be focusing on what's going on around him. Lolo keeps trying to make adjustments to the boat as they are going. And then Kayleigh just wants absolutely nothing to do with what's going on outside the little cargo hold where they have the food that he is taking care of, the plants and stuff like that he is taking care of for them to eat. And so throughout the course, we get this next song called What Could Be Better Than This? And throughout the course of this song, Moana is slowly getting each one of them to focus on like what's actually going on around them. Like, okay, yes, being a, archiving this trip is important. Yes, making sure the ship is good is important. Yes, making sure our food is good is important. But you have to focus on what is going on around you as well. You can't just focus on these little things. You have to like look up from what it is that you're working on and focus as to what is going on around you. And like they're slowly making, she gets all of them on board with this as they go through the song. And Kayleigh is just funny. He's just like, I just get me the F out of here. I don't want to be here in the first place. Get me out of here. So Kayleigh is not happy. The other two get on board with this pretty quickly. And then the comet blows up. Just boop, explodes. And this means that they have reached Motu-Fatu. But they're like looking around, and then the current just starts causing problems. And then they run into the kakamura, which are the little coconut warrior things that we saw in the first movie that Moana and Maui had to fight. And Moana is just like, okay, shoves everybody into the cargo hold, is taking care of the ship, is like jumping around, dodging all the neurotoxin knockout darts that they keep blowing at her, dodging them, blocking them with her oar, that she still has the oar that, Maui signed back in the first movie. And, dodging all over the place, and almost manages to escape, but because of interference with stuff, they get caught and they're actually taken out. Moana gets, darted, as do the rest of the crew, by this little specific kakamura called Kuta, I think is his name, or is their name. And they knock, they're all, paralyzed at this point in time. They're all jelly, as they keep referring to it. And then via Hei intervention, Hei gets it that the mast with their sail on it that has the, Motu-Fatu and the stars painted on it, shows to the kakamura, and they realize, oh my god, that's what that is. So the kakamura gather them all up, they're all still jelly on the ground, which is just funny. They're all just like, we can barely move. What do you want us to do? And which is just really funny for how they pull that off. But the kakamura basically put on a kakamura picture show with rolling themselves around to create the different pictures, and they have Moni translate for them, and it's explained that their home island for the kakamura, used to be near Motu-Fatu, but because Nalo had caused this storm and sunk Motu-Fatu, they themselves cannot get home either, so they can't return to their homeland. And so they're and this is where we get sympathy for the kakamura, because in the previous movie, they're just okay, they're this obstacle that Moana and Maui have to overcome and everything else like that, which they do. And then now it's okay, they're not actually as bad as we thought they were. So what ends up happening from there is Moana makes a deal with the kakamura chief that, okay, if we can defeat this giant, because there was also while all of this was going on with the kakamura, this giant clam basically popped up out of the water and is trying to suck them all in. And Loto comes up with the idea of, oh, well, the clam's just a giant thing of muscles, so if we hit it with neurotoxin, it should just, freeze, and then you guys will be safe. So they come up with the deal of, okay, if we can knock out this thing, then you guys will help us find Motu-Fatu. Okay. So, which just leads into a very funny scene, because they're okay, well, we're still jelly, so I don't understand how you intend for us to do this. And then they open up, one of the doors on the kakamura ship, and out comes this giant green blobfish that just slides over the top of Moana and her crew and sucks all the neurotoxin out of them. And they're all just oh god. Loto is the only one who is not creeped out by this. Everybody else is. Everybody is just disturbed by this. And then the blobfish sneezes, and that's how they get the neurotoxins that they then coat on a spear to try to stab into the giant clam. So they then head into the giant clam, find the Libya or whatever it is that they can stab into, which seems to be very easy at first, and then it's just like, nope, because shenanigans happen. And via reasons, they do end up finally getting it stabbed, but they end up getting dropped into the clam at the same point because the little kakamura, Kuto or whatever, Kuta, whatever their name was, like ran onto their ship, cut it free from the kakamura ship so the kakamura ships wouldn't fall into the giant clam, and then ends up down there with them. And so now they are trapped inside of the giant clam. So they get divided into two groups. The first group is everybody else minus Moana run into Maui. And they end up, so Maui has been inside this giant clam the whole time. And they end up running into Maui. And he's like, okay, first of all, you didn't see me like this, because he's still trapped in the giant, like, tooth rope, whatever. Manages to get himself free after he's able to get his hook. And then is like, okay, you never saw me like this. Have a nice day. Don't die. And then he's getting ready to leave. And then he sees Hey, and he's like, boat snack. Where's Moana? And he like, you guys know who Moana is. Where the F is she? And then we cut to where Moana is. And Moana is currently kind of being, so first of all, Moana has a dream where she envisions her talking to Simea. And okay, so there was something I skipped earlier that I should have skipped, or shouldn't have skipped. So earlier on in the movie, when after Moana has sung Beyond, and after she's made the decision that she's gonna go, and she's built got her crew ready and everything, Simea tries to stow away on the ship, and Moana finds her, of course, and she takes Simea to the ocean, where she introduces Simea to the ocean itself and reveals that the ocean is her friend, and that the ocean will also be Simea's friend. And that they can kind of, do some basic communication through the ocean. So this is like, we get like that kind of here. So Moana is dreaming of seeing Simea again. And then in the dream, Simea is just like, oh no, I'm just an illusion because you failed. And, and then she like turns into a bat in the dream. And then that makes Moana wake up. And then there's like this bat that's like right next to her. And Moana tries, it's like stuck on her oar, and she's like swinging the oar around trying to get the bat to go away. And then we meet, I'm going to butcher the name of the goddess, of the demi-goddess that is like Nalo's right-hand enforcer. Matangi? Sorry. That is very, very windy and snowy outside. I'm hoping the heat comes back, not the heat, the electricity comes back on soon, but we'll see what happens. And what ends up happening is Moana and Matangi. We get the song Get Lost, and Matangi is explaining to Moana that she is sick and tired of being Nalo's enforcer. She wants out of the clam. She wants to go and explore. She doesn't want to be here anymore. She's been stuck here with only bats for company. Not that she doesn't like her bats, but she would like to go and see more. And she's explaining to Moana that like there's more than one way to find your way to Motufutu. And so we have the song Get Lost, and it's, so you don't always have to follow the same path to get to where you need to go. Sometimes you have to get lost in order to find what you're looking for. And so it's like this great thing where they're, going through the giant clam, I guess. And they end up, Moana and Matangi end up kind of becoming friends during the song. And then Matangi takes Moana to, the place that Maui was trying to get Matangi to work with him to open, which is this gate inside of the clams, like this pearl gate inside of the clam. Not a pearly gate like heaven, but like a gate that has like a weird purple pearl looking smoke thing above it. And they get there, and it's supposed to be, you need this magic gate to get to the area where Motufutu is. So that's when Maui, along with the rest of Moana's crew, show up, and they're all reunited. And then Moana is able to open the gate, and it like opens up very similar to like the gate that took them into like the underworld in the first movie, where Tamatoa was. Like that kind of gate. So Moana has to do like a similar dance and chant to get the gate to open. And she does, and the gate opens, and their ship gets sucked into the bottom. Maui gets sucked into the bottom, and then Moana talks to Matangi one more time, and she's like, "Are you gonna come with us?" She's like, "No, just succeed, and we'll hopefully see each other again." And Moana jumps down the hole, and now they're in like this, traveling, path of the gods area that will take them to where they need to go to get to Motufutu. On the way there, Moana is very happy to be reunited with Maui. Maui is happy to see Moana too, because his tattoo, his mini Maui, kept like, nagging him about it, which is just funny. And Maui was intending to try to keep Moana out of this because he was trying to protect her and her people, because Moana is like this human that has all the gods talking, all the gods and demigods talking. Because she's like gained their interest because of what she achieved with restoring the hearts of Te Fiti and defeating Te Ka and all of that stuff, and freeing Maui from his island and reuniting him with his hook and everything. And so she's like this, this very big, this one that has all the gods talking. And what is going on is Maui is explaining to Moana, okay, so it's not just that Nalo has this giant storm. It's not just a storm. It is a monster storm. Like, it is kind of like this sentient type storm that, like, Nalo created to try to protect where Motufutu is so other people cannot get to it. And then also on top of that, he sunk Motufutu to the bottom of the ocean so that way it can't be gotten to by a human. So there's like lightning and deadly tornadoes and these huge rough waves and monsters that are part of this, and they end up in the area where like this weird calm greenish type sea that the ocean does not respond to Moana because the part of the ocean that is her friend can't reach this area. And they get chased by a giant eel, and then they end up on an island. They like find this deserted island where they end up finding a destroyed raft, the remains of Tote Tevasa's raft from so long ago, indicating that they managed to make their way this far, but they were then killed by Malo's storm before they could reach Motufutu. And during this whole thing, Moni ends up falling off the boat, and Maui saves him, but everyone's kind of shaken as to what happened, which is fair. So they're, and Moana is very shaken. And it's very similar to in the first movie after they fight Te Ka for the first time, and Maui's hook almost gets destroyed and everything else like that. So it's like Moana is very much, kind of at this very low point. And in that movie, it was her grandmother that showed up and helped her. In this one, she has Maui there because he has seen what she can do, and he's like, he's trying to cheer her up, and she's like listing off all the danger and everything that they put themselves through and everything. And she looks over, and Maui has his like shark head form, which is just funny because he's trying to make her laugh and doesn't work. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, you came to me when I was at my lowest before, and you helped me get past this, and now I'm going to help you. And we get the song, "Can I Get a Chihu?" And this is just Maui going through and like working on like rebuilding Moana's confidence and everything. And it's basically the song basically is kind of like a training sequence, because it's Maui and Moana like slowly working their way, trying to get past these obstacles to get past Nalo's storm and get to Motufutu. Because part of what needs to happen is that, because part of Maui's legend that we see in the first movie is that he would use his hook to drag, islands up out of the water, and then Moana's people would then sail their way to the islands. So Maui's intention is to go, or his intention anyways, to go make his way to where Motufutu is and then raise it out of the water, so that way it would then be able to reactivate as this as this bridge between all these different pathways, these crossroads. But they need something else in that. They don't just need Maui there to lift it up out of the water. They need a human to step foot on it, because that is what would break Nalo's curse. And so that's what their intention is. So it's just like, okay, so they build up, Maui builds up Moana's confidence, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and they're just like all ready for this. And Moana is like, she goes over to where her crew is, where her friends are, and she is prepared to like try to convince them to keep helping her and everything. And she's like all prepared for this, and then they like, kind of somber moment, and then they step aside and they reveal that they fixed the raft, by using pieces from Toatevasa's raft and everything to like fix the raft and everything. Hi, Boo. What are you doing? You're a good girl. And so they step aside and they show this to her, and she's like, you fixed it. And there's this like, we also decorated it. And Kayla is just like, we also decorated it. And we see like them all carved into the boat. We used the chicken. And he's like holding up, hey. It's just like, oh God. And Maui's like, respect. Because this is a callback to the moment in the first movie where Maui used hey to sign the oar for Moana with the hook and the heart and everything. When he used that to sign Moana's oar. So it's a callback to that, which I just find extra funny. So from there, what happens is they're like, okay, and they start making their way toward where Motufutu is and start making their way towards the storm. The plan seems to kind of work at first with like Maui fighting off the different like lightning bolts and the thunders and the tornadoes and stuff like that, but the boat is not agile enough for them to be able to turn as fast as they need to get past the tornadoes and everything, even with Maui's help. So what ends up happening is like they figure this out, and Loto, so they're like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Moana's like, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care. Well, he cares about you, but he's more interested in us. So if we act as a distraction, then Maui can go in and raise Motufutu out of the ocean, and then we can sail our ship to it, with Maui then trying to distract Nalo again, and we'll be able to. Come here, Brenda. Go girl. So we're getting to the climax of the movie, obviously, and what ends up happening is Moana and so Loto basically. Okay, so there's like several things that happen all at once. Maui heads in, and Loto ends up making this big change to the ship. She chops down the mast. She ends up using a bunch of the rope along with the sail to basically turn it into like a paragliding type ship, where they have like the, it's basically like a parasailing type thing is what they're doing. As they're like sailing around the water, because they can then turn on a dime so much easier to avoid waves and the lightning and the tornadoes and stuff like that from the storm. So that's what Loto does, and then they're all like, this point in time, they've all learned to work very well as a crew together. So they're going around and doing all of that and doing great, and Maui has managed to get to the island, and he's hooked it, and he's trying to pull it out of the ocean. So that way, they can get it up so Moana or one of her crew can like land on the island. And, Nalo's storm, Nalo notices this, and he just like centers all of this lightning on Maui to just strike Maui all at the same time. And it's magic infused lightning. It's not just regular lightning, it's like magic infused lightning that is just like attacking Maui. And it basically like, Brenda, don't do that. Don't do that. Leave that alone. Don't lick the heating vent. Don't do that. And so they're going. So Maui's tattoos are basically being like kind of erased off of him, including mini Maui. And this just like it's basically like zapping his strength is what it's doing. It's because his tattoos are these marks of all of his achievements that he's done, his story, and we learned that in the first movie, that all the tattoos are marks of his achievements. And Brenda, what's the matter? You're not petting me enough. Yes, you're a good girl, and I love you. You're a very good girl. I'm almost done. The sooner I get this done, the sooner we can go downstairs and we can snuggle again, okay? You can snuggle while I edit. So, what ends up happening is Maui's tattoos are all burned away. Moana is watching this horrified, as are the rest of them. Their ship capsizes at this same time. They all land in the water. They're all getting each other out of the water. Maui falls from the sky and lands in the water. And it's again, Moana is just having this moment where she's just like, what can we do? What can I do? And it's just like, there is another way. And she dives into the ocean. She yells at the crew to go and get Maui, and she dives into the ocean to swim down to Motufitu. Now, to be fair, there are some Polynesian cultures, that area, Indonesia, Polynesian area, that they have people who are just amazing swimmers and can be underwater for like up to 10 minutes at a time just because they're so used to it. They're like free divers. And I don't know how Moana is like that, but like she dives into the water, and then Nalo keeps trying to like attack lightning into the water. The crew get Maui, so he's safe. He's not drowning. And then the lightning is like trying to chase after Moana in the water. And to be fair, water is very conductive to electricity, so that's not good either. And Moana is just swimming down, like she's kind of dodging some of the lightning as she can, and she's just like swimming down as fast as she can. And we have like, it slows down in the movie, and she, just before the lightning hits her, she manages to touch the island, to touch Motufitu, to touch the top of the island. And then she is hit by lightning. But because she managed to touch the island, that breaks the curse. That breaks the curse that Nalo put on the island. And this then causes, the lightning still hit her, but this, breaks the curse, and just like the sky kind of is just like the storm is just shoved away and dispelled, and everything, it dissipates and everything because the curse is broken. And Maui recovers enough, still doesn't have his tattoos, dives into the water, finds Moana, and the ocean, which is now back to how it should be. It's able to communicate with itself again in this area. It makes this like ocean bubble around them, so they have air in the bottom. And Maui is just holding Moana's lifeless body, and he is just devastated, and he is just begging her to wake up because she's his best friend. And she's done so much, not just for him but for her own people and everything, and he knows how courageous she is and the type of person she is, and he is just devastated by this. And he starts chanting Mana Vanu is what Maui starts chanting. And he goes through, he starts chanting this, and then Toatevasa shows up, and Gramatala shows up, and so many of these ancestors from Moana show up in like their spirit forms. They show up and they like form like the curl around them that is like the symbol that's the symbol for Moana and everything. And they revive Moana, and she gains this tattoo on her, is it her left arm or her right arm? But she gains a tattoo that has like Motufitu and like the pathways coming out of it. And Moana wakes up, and she sees her grandmother again, and the spirits of her ancestors all around her, and Maui and everything. And Maui's hook is returned to him, and his tattoos are all restored, including Mini Maui. And then Moana gets her oar, and now her oar gets marked with like the similar tattoos to like what's now on her arm. And so, Moana is basically made a demigoddess, which is awesome. And the ancestors disappear. Maui jumps out of the water, uses his hook to hook Motufitu and to pull it out of the water, and Moana is able to use her oar and her powers to now like communicate with the ocean even better and control the ocean even better to make it that it's easier to raise the island. And so that happens. They raise the island. All of the rest of her crew are just like ecstatic because Moana's alive, and they succeeded in raising the island and breaking the curse. And like we see like the crossroads set up going through Motufatu with all of the just all the different ways and pathways and everything coming out from the island, which just look really freaking cool. And you know, Moana and is just so happy. You know, they're all so happy, and then other people start showing up. Other wayfinders, sailors start showing up at Motufatu, and you know, it's like different ones with like different styles of ships and you know different type of dress and everything starts showing up. And then Moana is making her way back home, and what happens is we cut back to Motunui, where Samea is like sitting on the beach, and then Maui shows up, throws sand everywhere, gets to Samea, and points to where like Moana is showing up again, and Moana shows up and like rides the water, rides the waves, the ocean to the shore where she's reunited with her sister and her parents. And then they turn and she points, and like they reveal that there's all these others, that they succeeded, they raised Motufatu, they broke Nalo's curse, and the pathways have been restored, and now they are reunited with the rest of their people. And we get the final song of the movie, which is the We Know the Way, which was the final song for the first movie as well. And they have like this big party, this big celebration with like all of these other other groups that are other variations of like Polynesian culture. The people of the sea show back up. They're at the island and everything, and they're re-establishing their bonds with all these other islands and tribes and everything. And they go through that. And there's just big celebration. And Moana is now basically like a demigoddess in her own right, which is so freaking cool. And then we go through the credits, and then we have the mid-credits scene is Nalo punishing Matangi for helping Maui and Moana, and he's starting to plan his revenge. And then we have climbing up, we have Tamatoa is there. And he, of course, wants to get his revenge on Moana as well. So this is like hinting at, at a third one, at a second sequel, another sequel. Yay! So now we have cast. So we have, and I think pretty much everyone who voiced their character in the first movie, I think returned to voice their character in this one. So Moana is voiced by Alui Cravalo. I apologize, I'm so sorry. Is Moana. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is, of course, Maui. We have, I am going to butcher these people's names, and I am so sorry about that. I am very sorry. I don't know how to pronounce Polynesian names very well, so I apologize. Sorry. Hao Laile Chung as Moni, Rose Matafo as Loto, David Thane as Kale, Ohame Fraser as Matangi, Khaleesi Lambert Suda as Simea, Chief Tui and Sena, Moana's parents, they were voiced by the same people. Rachel House returns to voice Grandma Tala. Gerald Ramsey voices Toate Vasa. Alan Tunick, of course, voices Hey Hey. And Tofiga Fepulei, as Nalo. And then Jemani Clement as Tamatoa. And so I do think that they got everybody else that was in the first movie to come back to voice their characters in this movie. And of course you throw in a couple of the new characters for new voice actors. I very much like this movie. I think I like the first one better. I think I like the music in the first one better. I mean, like, I liked Beyond in this one, and like, what could be better than this for like Them on the Ocean is like a nice song. But I think I just liked the first one better in general for like music and everything else in the story a bit better. The thing with Moana 2 is that it was originally supposed to be a series on Disney Plus, like a mini series or something like that on Disney Plus, with like Moana going on different adventures. And then that idea got shifted, and then it got turned into an actual movie. Not the first time that's happened. As you might remember if you've watched my other Disney reviews, when I talked about Atlantis 2, Milo's Return, that was initially not supposed to be like just a straight to DVD, straight to home video movie. It was originally supposed to be, they were going to have it be a series, and then they shifted away from that, but they already had so much work done on it that they just turned what they had into like a 3-set movie. And now they kind of pulled that off with this, although I will say they definitely did this one better than Milo's Return, and how they like tied everything together for how they were going to do it. I like the new characters. I like Loto and Kayleigh. They're fun. I think I like them the best. Monet is nice too. Him just being a Maui fanboy is funny. Samaya is adorable. And I would be very happy if we got a sequel to Moana 2. If we got Moana 3, it's like we're already going to get Frozen 3. Might as well get Moana 3 as well. So that's what I have for this. I did enjoy this. Our tree out front is just kind of like whipping in the wind, and I know, Brenda. It's okay. Mommy gonna finish, and then we'll go downstairs. You're a good girl. You're a good girl. Okay, that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I'd kind of hoped the electricity would come back on before I was done recording this, but it hasn't yet. But obviously it'll have to come back on at some point in time for me to be able to upload this. So, bye.